ensue, as it appears the Indiana Fever may be making a move for another power forward. We have been waiting to see what's going to be the next domino to fall for the Indiana Fever, and this was just posted. Take a look. We have it right there.
The Indiana Fever front office has just delivered a loud, unmistakable, and honestly intimidating message to the rest of the WNBA. And that message is simple. The era of targeting Caitlin Clark is over. From this point forward, if anyone tries to come at her physically, if anyone decides to send a message with unnecessary contact or test her with hard fouls meant to intimidate, they're not just dealing with Clark anymore. They're going to have to deal with backup. Reports indicate the Fever are adding veteran forward Myisha Hines-Allen, a 6'2" WNBA champion and proven force on both ends of the floor. A player known across the league for her toughness, her physical style, and her willingness to do the dirty work that shifts games in the playoffs. This isn't just a depth signing, this is an identity shift. Because when you combine Hines-Allen's presence with Sophie Cunningham, a guard who has already shown she won't hesitate to step in, get physical, and defend her teammates at all costs, Indiana suddenly looks very different. This is no longer just a basketball roster. It starts to look like protection built into the system. A team where every hard foul gets answered, every cheap shot gets remembered, every attempt to rattle their franchise star comes with consequences on the very next possession. And whether people want to admit it or not, that changes everything about how opponents approach Indiana. Caitlin Clark is already the centerpiece of the franchise, the player everything revolves around, but now she doesn't have to absorb that constant physical pressure alone. There are layers behind her, enforcers in different forms, though players who set the tone the moment things get too aggressive. This single move, paired with Indiana's existing toughness, shifts more than just their roster. It shifts perception. It changes the psychological edge teams think they have when they step onto the floor against them. Now, instead of Indiana being a young team trying to survive physicality, they start to look like a team that responds to it. And that's where things get interesting heading into the 2026 season, because the message from Indiana isn't subtle anymore. They're not just building around a star, they're building a wall around her.
This isn't about big names, okay? This is about getting quality pieces that could fit into a role and help. She had a down year last year, but one thing Myisha Hines-Allen does, she brings toughness. It ain't gonna be no punking her. It ain't gonna be no bullying her. We need more we need a goon squad, okay? We already know a hit was sent out on Caitlin Clark. She was the most targeted player in the WNBA for the last 2 years. It's very, very obvious. Myisha Hines-Allen is...
Let's break down exactly why Myisha Hines-Allen is not just another roster addition, and why her name actually carries serious weight in the WNBA. Because if you haven't been following her career closely, you might be underestimating just how complete and battle-tested this player really is. Hines-Allen entered the league as a second-round pick by the Washington Mystics in the 2018 WNBA draft. But by her second season, she wasn't just part of the rotation, she was part of history. In 2019, she helped lead Washington to its first ever WNBA championship, and she didn't just happen to be there. She was a real contributor in that title run, providing the kind of physical edge and relentless effort that doesn't always show up in highlight reels, but absolutely shows up in playoff basketball. The screens, the rebounds, the defensive battles, the hustle plays, that was her identity. Then came 2020, and that's when she took a major leap into full league-wide recognition. She earned all WNBA second-team honors after putting together an elite statistical season and establishing herself as one of the most difficult forwards to deal with in the entire league. At her peak, she was a matchup nightmare. Strong enough to finish through contact in the paint, skilled enough to stretch the floor with a three-point shot hovering around the mid-30% range for her career, and versatile enough to rebound, facilitate from the high post, and defend multiple positions. For several seasons, she wasn't just a starter in Washington, she was a foundational piece of the franchise's identity. Eventually, she moved on and was traded to the Minnesota Lynx during the 2024 season, and if there's one team that matched her style perfectly, it was Minnesota. That franchise, under head coach Cheryl Reeve, is built on toughness, discipline, and defensive intensity. It's not a soft landing spot, It's a proving ground, and Hines Allen fit right into that environment, continuing to show she can thrive in physically demanding systems where effort and grit are non-negotiable. More recently, she joined the Dallas Wings for the 2025 season, and her impact was still very real. In Dallas, she averaged 7.6 points, 6 rebounds, and a career-best 2.9 assists in just 22 minutes per game across 40 appearances, starting half of those contests in a competitive frontcourt rotation. What that stat line doesn't fully capture is her role: steady, physical, reliable, and versatile. The kind of player who raises the floor of a team the moment she steps on the court. Now she enters free agency again, fully in control of her next destination, and that's where Indiana stepped in. Way up with Amber Cox and the Fever front office moving aggressively, Indiana made sure a player with this level of championship experience, toughness, and versatility didn't slip away,
while still being able to build a team in the future for Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston as they come up on their max deals. Okay, Myisha Hines Allen, I think she's a good quality player. I'm not mad at this signing in the least bit. Okay, I think Myisha Hines Allen can definitely provide some strength, some toughness. At the end of the day, she's a dog, and we need dogs. Okay, it's too many people that believe they can just...
Before we even get into how this move pushes the Indiana Fever closer to being dominant on the floor, you have to understand the real strategic layer behind it. The part most mainstream coverage is completely overlooking. This wasn't just about adding depth, it was about fixing a very specific problem, because this offseason didn't go perfectly for Indiana. They lost a major piece of their defensive identity in Natasha Howard, who left for the Dallas Wings on a 3-year max deal, and that absence left a real void inside, especially in terms of rim protection, physicality, and defensive presence in the paint. Yeah. The Fever responded by bringing in Monique Billings, a smart addition who brings energy, athleticism, and some offensive versatility. But even with that move, there was still an obvious gap in the frontcourt rotation that couldn't be ignored. They needed another forward, someone who could hold her ground against bigger post players, bring consistent physical resistance, switch defensively when needed, and still offer enough offensive utility to stay on the floor next to their core pieces. That's exactly where Myisha Hines Allen comes in. At 6 feet 2 inches with a strong frame and long reach, she gives Indiana legitimate lineup flexibility. She can slide between power forward and small ball center duties without breaking defensive structure, which is huge in late game matchups. Offensively, she brings spacing too. A career 3-point shooter around 35% means defenses can't just ignore her on the perimeter. If opponents collapse on Caitlin Clark or load up in the paint, Hines Allen is capable of making them pay from the outside. But her value goes far beyond shooting. She averaged around 6 rebounds per game last season, adding another tough physical presence on the glass for Indiana on both ends. She also posted a career-high 2.9 assists, showing she can operate as a connector in short roll situations when defenses are forced to trap or double team Clark. And then there's the part that doesn't really show up in stat sheets: the edge, the physical tone, the willingness to make every possession uncomfortable. Hines Allen plays with a level of toughness that shifts how opponents have to approach the game from the opening tip. Plus, she doesn't avoid contact, she creates it. She doesn't react to physical play, she sets it. Her screens are heavy, the kind that force defenders to think twice before fighting over them. Her boxouts are aggressive and constant, turning rebounding into a battle of will more than positioning. That kind of presence changes a team's entire identity, and that's why Indiana didn't just add another forward. They added force.
And overpaying role players, okay? The only long-term commitments they have is Caitlin Clark, Aaliyah Boston, Lexi Hall now with a multi-year long-term deal. We want to keep her around, okay? Monique Billings. Outside of that, they're not committing long-term to people. And I actually think that's good, because at the end of the day, that New York Liberty team, they have formed the Avengers, but you can stay competitive and give yourselves a puncher's chance while still being able to build a team in the future for Caitlin Clark.
She brings a level of post defense that is simply suffocating, pure unmovable strength that throws elite scorers completely off their timing and forces them into uncomfortable, inefficient possessions. But where Myisha Hines Allen really changes everything is in the moments that don't show up in highlight reels, when the game starts to get physical, when tempers rise. When opponents begin trying to test Indiana's composure and pick on younger players to see if they'll crack under pressure. That's when Hines Allen steps in. She's the one who walks straight into that intensity, stands her ground, and makes it clear the Fever aren't backing down from anybody. And that detail matters because it speaks to exactly what Indiana has been trying to build all offseason. This isn't just about assembling scoring talent or stacking offensive firepower. This is about identity. This is about building a roster with toughness baked into every rotation. A team that doesn't just play skillful basketball, but plays physical, connected, and unafraid basketball. A group that can walk into hostile arenas and refuse to be pushed around. Most importantly, it's about protecting their franchise centerpiece at all costs. And the truth is, Indiana has had Hines Allen on its radar for a while. This wasn't a rushed decision or a late reaction to a roster hole. This was a fit that had been discussed, evaluated, and quietly monitored for months. Even during the 2025 season, ESPN's Kevin Pelton floated the idea of a potential trade that would have sent Hines Allen from Dallas to Indiana. At the time, the basketball logic was already obvious, but Dallas had no interest in moving her, so nothing materialized. Now though, everything has changed. She's an unrestricted free agent, no trade packages, no draft capital, no complicated negotiations between franchises, just a direct opportunity, a contract offer, and a vision for what comes next. And honestly, the pitch writes itself. Come to Indiana, where Caitlin Clark creates open looks on demand with her elite playmaking, where Aaliyah Boston anchors the front court as a rising star, where Kelsey Mitchell provides scoring punch, and Sophie Cunningham adds grit and edge. Come to a franchise that came within minutes of a finals appearance and now enters the season with legitimate championship expectations. Come play in front of one of the most passionate home crowds in the league, a fan base that turns every home game into an event. And under the new CBA, come get compensated at a level that reflects your value. From a basketball standpoint, it's as clean and compelling as it gets. A stable role, a contender, a perfect system fit at this stage of her career. But in reality, this move isn't just about schemes or spacing or salary structures.
I'm cool with bringing in Myisha Hines Allen to be a part of the supporting cast, and at the end of the day, we need toughness, man. We know Sophie Cunningham's not going for anything. We watched Lexi Hall play with two black eyes, but we need people that if somebody fouls somebody too hard, Myisha Hines Allen is going to be in there ready to fight. She's going to be in there ready to fight. And that is what we need. You need one or two of these people on your team. I know we talk about team chemistry and all that. You know what helps team chemistry? When you know somebody got your back. When you know this
is no longer just basketball strategy. It's psychological warfare. Picture what the Indiana Fever are quietly assembling when you zoom out and look at the full picture of this roster. You already have Sophie Cunningham in the mix, a 6'1" perimeter defender who has quickly become a cult favorite in Indianapolis. The kind of player fans rally behind because she doesn't hesitate, doesn't flinch, and doesn't back down when things get physical. When opponents try to get under Caitlin Clark's skin, Cunningham is usually the first line of resistance on the wing. Active, aggressive, and completely unbothered by reputation or reputation management from the league. She sets the tone on the outside. Now add Myisha Hines Allen, and suddenly the equation changes entirely because Hines Allen isn't just another front court piece. She's the interior enforcer, the presence in the paint who treats the lane like controlled territory. She battles for position, owns the glass, and deters drives simply by standing her ground with physical authority. She doesn't just contest shots, she discourages them from happening in the first place. So when you put those two together, something very different starts to form. It becomes a layered defensive identity built around protection, toughness, and response. On the perimeter, Cunningham is there to meet contact early, bump cutters off their spots, and make sure no one gets comfortable initiating physical play against Indiana's guards. Inside, Hines Allen is waiting in the paint, ready to absorb drives, finish defensive possessions with force, and send a clear message that the lane is not open for easy attacks. And if anyone thinks they can beat Indiana off the ball by pushing through screens, grabbing, holding, or trying to sneak in extra contact, they're going to feel it right back on the next possession in the form of a hard, legal tone-setting screen. That's the structure. That's the response system. Two different roles, one unified message, and it covers the entire floor. Because over the past couple of seasons, Caitlin Clark has already experienced what it looks like when opposing teams test test her physically. Hard fouls in transition, bumps off the ball, contact after whistles, and constant pressure designed to throw her off rhythm. For a long time, Indiana was still building its answer. Now that answer looks a lot more complete. First, they brought in Cunningham to raise the edge on the perimeter. Now they add Hines Allen to anchor the interior with force. And whether teams like it or not, the message is becoming impossible to ignore. If you're planning to target Caitlin Clark physically, you're not just dealing with her anymore. You're dealing with a system built to respond.
Called on her every game. She, for the most part, is going to be dealing with foul issues. That's just what it is. So we need quality backup center play, and I don't want to rely on Damiris Dantas, but I do really like this move of Myisha Hines Allen. If the Indiana Fever are able to complete this, I think this will be a beautiful addition to the roster. I still would like to see another move, man. Ray Burrell, I'm still good with Rebecca Allen coming because she could play the 3 and the 4. She could step out. I think there's more to be.
And this is where the entire plan goes from good on paper to genuinely game-changing on the court. Because the real payoff of this strategy isn't just toughness, it's what that toughness unlocks. When Caitlin Clark feels fully protected on the floor, her entire game levels up. When she knows her teammates are not just supportive, but physically present in a way that deters cheap shots and constant contact, she stops playing in survival mode and starts playing in attack mode. That changes everything. She drives with more force. She pushes the tempo harder. She stays in the air longer to make those impossible split-second reads that only she can see. She starts manipulating defenses instead of reacting to them. And that hesitation we saw at times last season. The quick pull-up threes instead of attacking the rim. The early passes instead of extended playmaking sequences. That wasn't just strategy. A lot of it was self-preservation, a subconscious adjustment to constant physical pressure and the lack of reliable deterrence around her. But that version of Clark disappears when you change the environment. Now imagine her operating with Sophie Cunningham on the wing and Myisha Hines Allen in the paint. Two players who don't just help, but actively shift how opponents choose to play. That's when Clark becomes fully unleashed. No second guessing, no hesitation, just full speed, full confidence, maximum aggression Caitlin Clark, which quite frankly, is when she becomes the most dangerous offensive engine women's basketball has ever seen. Even with all the contact she faced last season, she still put up 16.5 points and 8.8 assists per game. Now project that into a full season where the physical pressure drops and her freedom increases. That's not a small jump, that's a transformation in output and efficiency. Because this isn't just about protection anymore, it's about liberation. Hines Allen doesn't just stand next to Clark, she removes the mental burden of constant physical threat. She helps unlock the version of Clark who doesn't play cautiously, doesn't overthink contact, and doesn't adjust her game just to survive possessions. She unlocks the version the league hasn't fully dealt with yet, and when you zoom out and look at this entire Indiana roster, the picture gets even more intense. Clark at point guard running the entire system. Kelsey Mitchell as a lethal scoring threat. Sophie Cunningham bringing edge and perimeter defense. Aliyah Boston anchoring the paint as a rising all-star. Lexi Hull providing defensive reliability on the wing, Monique Billings adding versatility and energy, Hines Allen reinforcing the interior with toughness and experience, Ty Harris giving steady backup playmaking, Damiris Dantas supplying veteran stability, and a young developmental big like Michaela Timpson rounding out the front court depth. That's a deep rotation loaded with shooting, defense, physicality, and playoff experience. A group that no longer has a glaring soft spot inside. What used to be a weakness has turned into a strength almost overnight. And the enforcer pairing of Cunningham and Hines Allen gives Indiana something most teams simply don't have. A built-in physical response system, a constant message to the league that every action has an answer, so the message heading into 2026 is becoming crystal clear. The days of physical intimidation without consequence are over in Indiana. Nobody gets easy possessions, nobody gets free shots at their franchise star, and if this all comes together the way it's designed to, the rest of the WNBA is about to find out exactly what it means to try to break through a fortified wall built around the most dangerous guard in the league. That's the full breakdown. If you enjoyed this analysis, make sure to like the video, drop your prediction in the comments, and subscribe to WNBA Pro so you don't miss any updates this offseason. The question now is simple: is this roster strong enough to turn all of this into a championship run? We're about to find out.